Hello, and thank you for joining me for another Basics of the Bible video. My name is Christopher Scott. I do these videos each week, going Genesis through Revelation. There's 75 different videos in this playlist that I am working on and trying to add each week. And today we're going to look at the book of Joshua. The book of Joshua. So I have an introduction to the historical books up there I will put for you that just kind of outlines the 12 historical books and what they're about. But in this video, I want to talk to you about the book of Joshua. And the one-word description for Joshua is conquering. Conquering or claiming you can use. But conquering or claiming is what the book of Joshua is about. Joshua is God's appointed leader following Moses. And I have a video there on Deuteronomy you can watch if you'd like. Joshua leads Israel to courageously take the promised land. This is that same land that God had promised to Abraham in Genesis chapters 12 through 25. In addition to conquering the promised land, Joshua is supposed to keep Israel holy and separate from the people around them. For example, they're not supposed to intermarry with pagan nations living in the land, nor were they supposed to make any treaties or agreements with people in the land. Joshua is the leader responsible to ensure the people remain the kingdom of priests that Exodus 19, 3 through 6 talks about. And I got a video on Exodus right up there you can watch where I talk more about God's purpose of the law and what its role was for the nation of Israel. So in the notes there, down in the description, I have some notes here on Joshua that I'm going to cover. You can print those out or use those. Those are all for free there. And I also have a link to the playlist with all the videos in the playlist you can watch for free. So the author of the book of Joshua, the book never specifically tells us, it does tell us in Joshua 24:26 that Joshua wrote these things down. So he probably wrote portions of the book. But there are sections that must have been written by Eleazar the priest or Phinehas the priest, such as Joshua 24:29 through 31 was not written by him. So most likely Joshua wrote parts of it, but not all of it. And it seems to kind of come from this first personal point of view, that he sees these things, he describes them in detail, and who goes where and what. And so the author possibly was Joshua, most likely, that took the land. For example, in Joshua 5:1 and Joshua 5:6, you see the first person plural pronoun used, we and us, in a couple of places. And the manuscripts differ a little bit as well, the different Hebrew manuscripts. But it does seem to be written by Joshua to talk about how the nation of Israel took the promised land. The audience was the nation of Israel, to tell them how they took the promised land. And the date that it was takes place is 1406 to 1375, somewhere in there. 1406 is when the nation of Israel takes the promised land, 1406. And then it's describing the next generation of people, 40 years of people after that. A key verse for the book, I believe, is Joshua 11:23. I'd like to read that to you from the New American Standard Bible. Joshua 11:23 says, "So Joshua took the whole land according to all that the Lord had spoken to Moses, and Joshua gave it for an inheritance to Israel according to their divisions by their tribes. Thus the land had rest from war." Okay, so the book's about Joshua taking the nation of Israel into the promised land after Moses has died and conquering it and trying to take it. Okay, and my outline for the book of Joshua is pretty simple. The first 12 chapters are entering the promised land. They're conquering the promised land. They're entering the promised land in the first 12 chapters. The last 12 chapters, 13 through 24, they are living in the promised land or existing in the promised land. So it pretty easily divides in half, the book does, and you'll see that in my notes down there in the description. So that's a little bit about the book of Joshua. And in Joshua, we see them trying to take that promised land, but they don't completely take the land. We're going to see this show up in Joshua and continue throughout all of the historical books, that even though the nation of Israel is trying to be holy, they're trying to follow the law, they can never do it. And there are two specific examples in the book of Joshua. One is Achan's sin in Joshua 7, where Joshua tells the people to enter this land, to conquer them, but they're not supposed to take the spoils of war for themselves. Well, there's this guy named Achan. He couldn't resist, so he takes some silver and gold and he keeps it for himself. And then all of a sudden, the nation of Israel loses a battle and everybody's distraught. And Joshua finds out about it and has to get the stuff back from Achan. And Achan is eventually stoned and burned for what he had done. Okay, that happens in chapter 7 of Joshua. And then in chapter 9, Israel has began taking the land. They're conquering people. God is blessing them, and they are taking the land that had been promised to Abraham. And these Gibeonites that live in the land of Canaan, they are part of the area that Israel is going to eventually conquer. The Gibeonites realized God is with these Israelites. They're going to conquer us and kill us. We better do something. So they gather their stuff. They travel to the Israelites and they take some really old food that is moldy. They put on some tattered clothing and they show up to the Israelites and say, hey, we're from way, way, way over there. We know you're not going to probably go over there, but we want to make a treaty with you that you won't conquer our people. And Israel, it says that the leaders of Israel, let me read it here in 9:14, I believe it is. It says, so the men of Israel took some of their provisions and did not ask for the counsel of the Lord. Did not ask for the counsel of the Lord. My friend in seminary, Sam, showed that last little sentence to me and the significance of it. They didn't ask for God's counsel. They didn't obey God. And they got deceived because those Gibeonites lived in the nation, in the area that they needed to take, that was part of the promised land. So they had to honor the covenant they had made not to conquer the Gibeonites. So the key verse says they took the whole land, but they really didn't quite get the whole land. Israel couldn't quite stay obedient through Achan's sin and this agreement that they had with the Gibeonites. So that's the book of Joshua. And it's a great book, interesting to read, a little technical the last half of the book, but I hope it's helpful for you to give you a little background of what's going on. And like I said, I got a bunch of the notes there in the description for you. You can watch for free. Thanks for watching this video with me and joining me. I hope you can catch other videos. If you'd like to subscribe to my monthly email newsletter, I have a link there. The first comment down there below this video is a link where I promise I send you one email a month and I give you links to the articles that I had published the month before in various magazines and the newest YouTube videos that come out here on YouTube. So they're both free resources you get, and I just send you one email a month. So if you like this video and want to stay updated with the ones that I make, that's a great way to do it. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions about Joshua, feel free to leave a comment down there and ask your question, and me and perhaps other people can discuss it with you. Thanks for watching, and I hope to catch you again in another video.